Hi everyone, welcome to vlog week number 37. So this week it's another busy week. So it's Monday morning at the minute. I'm not working today. I'm really lucky. My part-time job's really flexible, so when I'm busy, I just don't go in. So I just go in as and when I can and help out when they need it. So I'm going to go in tomorrow, but I've decided to stay home today so I can get on with the Liberty dress because I really want to get this done and filmed and up, because hopefully, fingers crossed, one of the orders that I quoted for last week is going to go ahead, and it's a huge order and I have a really short amount of time to do it in. So I'm talking to someone at 11:30. I've got a phone meeting, and fingers crossed it's looking really hopeful, but so hopefully it's all going to happen and go ahead. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about it or if it's secret, so I'll find that out as well. I'm really hoping I can vlog what I've got to make because it's really exciting. Then on Wednesday evening I'm at CIT for the fashion graduation show. Saturday daytime I've got my last crafternoon tea for the year, and Saturday evening I'm modelling for my friend Kelly who owns Pure Pod. So Pure Pod I've talked about lots in my videos in the past. It's an ethical, sustainable fashion brand, and Kelly is launching her new collection, and she's asked me to model, so that's up at the Botanic Gardens. So I'm super excited to see the collection and be part of the launch. So this morning I'm just having a calm before the storm coffee in the sun. I finished editing last week's vlog, so that's ready to upload in a minute. And I'm just taking 5 minutes to have a coffee and chill in the sunshine before this crazy week starts. At the end of the vlog last week, I was off to see Bohemian Rhapsody, and I thought I'd just give you my quick review of it because I didn't get a chance to do it when I got home last night. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was just brilliant. The cast were just sensational. It was funny, it was sad, it was heartbreaking, and it was just, it was everything I hoped it would be. I left just aching for Freddie's loneliness. He was so lonely, it was just awful. But I'm really glad they finished it when they did. So if you haven't seen it, this is like a little mini spoiler. So the end of the movie is their big performance at Wembley Stadium for Live Aid. And even though Freddie had found out he was sick at that time, this performance was such a high point for them. I'm really glad that they finished it then and they didn't go on to show his declining health and him passing away. It was just a really fitting tribute to an incredible band and an incredible talented singer, songwriter, performer. I thought that Bohemian Rhapsody is excellent. If you're a Queen fan, go and see it. If you're a music fan, go and see it. If you're a movie fan, go and see it. I loved it, absolutely loved it. Okay, back to it, and I'm going to start with boning the corset. I've just changed my lighting setup a little bit because I noticed the fluorescent lights on my desk were picking up a little bit flickery in my new phone sometimes, something that they never did that in my old phone. So I have my ring light balanced on my sofa, precariously leaning over my desk, and then my two big lights here and here, and hopefully that will give some better lighting and get rid of that flickeriness that was popping up sometimes on my camera. I noticed this camera doesn't always focus as well. At some point when I've got some money, I'll buy a better vlogging camera. Okay, so next I'm going to bone this corset. So I've got a 1.5 centimetre seam allowance at the bottom for when I join the outside and lining together there. So I want my boning to stop just above that. So I'm going to use my Magic Disappearing pen, and I'm going to mark 2 centimetres up each bone casing so I know where to stop the boning. Next I'm going to bone it with a combination of straight steel and spiral steel. So the spiral steel is going to go in all of the bone casings from the center front up to here. Then the straight steel goes in these two bone casings at the back, and then the eyelets go between that. The steel boning is actually quite a lot narrower than the bone casings I'd sewn in this, because I've changed my boning supplier and moved to this slightly narrower version of spiral steel since I started making this one, and I didn't notice before I started putting the boning in. So the boning is a little bit loose in the channels, but it will be all right. Yeah, I definitely, if I was making this from scratch and if I was making it for a client, I'd definitely sew the bone casings just a couple of mils wider than the boning that I'm putting in, so that they sat a lot snugger in there. But because this is just for a sample and for a video, it doesn't really matter. I've stitched all the boning into place, so the next thing to do is bring it back right sides together and pin all along the bottom. Then I'm going to stitch my 1.5 centimeter seam allowance and then turn it all in the right way through this centre back opening, which is pretty tricky with all the boning in, but it does work. So I've pinned it all down this side front seam, and you can see that I was lining up the outside seam with the inside seam. And now I'm going to go onto my machine and I'm going to stitch really carefully, stitching the ditch all the way down to join the outside and lining together. Once this seam is stitched, I'm going to repeat it for the other 5 seams. And for now, I'm not going to sew the back seams up, because I want them to be open, so when I've got an overlay on, I can tuck the ends of the overlay in, and then I'll hand stitch that up. And again, I'm not going to do the eyelets yet, I'll do them after I've got all the overlay on, so they go through all of the layers. So the corset is all together. I've stitched through all of the seams. Like I said, I've left the back open so I can hide any ends of overlays in there. But next I'm going to start on embellishments. I'm going to start with the winged heart on the front. So here's the design that we're doing, if you haven't seen it already. So the next thing I want to do is work on this winged heart, because I think the placement of that and the size of that is then going to dictate how I do everything underneath it. So I'm going to work out exactly the size and shape I want that to be to sit on the neckline of the corset next. So I sort of roughly traced off the neckline, and I've drawn a sort of rough idea of how I want this to be, but I think it might be a bit big, so I think I'm going to put the corset on a mannequin and cut this out and pin it on and see how it sits. Once I've worked out if it's too big or too small, I can use that as my rough template to get started on making this applique. So here's my rough pattern pinned onto the neckline, and I love the shape of this, is following the neckline really well. I think it's just a tiny bit too long, and if anything this end part can just flick up a little bit higher. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to redraw it just with that end bit a bit higher, and then I'm going to copy the other side as well, so I've got the full symmetrical pattern to use to start working on the applique. Okay, so there's my... So that's how it looks now I've done the second side of it. So I'm just going to hold that back up and see if it's okay, and then I'm going to use that to start making... it only just fits in the embroidery hoop that I've got. So I'm going to use 2 layers of tulle in the embroidery hoop, and then I've got all sorts of bits and bobs to use to actually make this part of it. So I think I'm just going to have to make those ends a tiny bit smaller just to get them fitting inside the hoop. Okay. So I've just popped it back on the mannequin on the corset, and we can lose these end parts. It's actually about the right length and angle if we stop here. I've got a client coming next to collect an order, so I've got to get that ready. I've got to photograph a headpiece. So once she's been and gone, I'll show you exactly how I'm going to make this embroidered patch to put on the Liberty dress. Okay, to make the heart applique, I've got a huge embroidery ring. I've got some soft tulle, which I'm going to use a double layer of. I've got some sequin offcuts to do the heart from, which I'm going to then use these red beads to bead on top of. I've got these beautiful silver iron-on embroideries, which I'm thinking I might be able to cut up to make the wing shapes. And then I've got some lace offcuts, I've got crystals, and I've got silver beads and rhinestone chain to add to it. So this is all studio offcuts and beads and random things from my stash that I've collected over the years. So I think I'm going to put the tulle into the frame and then just play and see what happens. Okay, so first thing I need to do is to get my tulle into my embroidery hoop and get that nice and tight, and then I can start working out which of these I'm going to use to create this winged heart. Okay, I've taken my sequin fabric and I've put some double-sided interfacing bondel stuff on the back. So I'm just going to peel the backing paper off carefully, and it will have left me the sticky part on the fabric, which I can now iron on. But I'm just going to lay everything on here for now. So that's how my heart's going to go. I'm actually going to bead on top of it because I don't want it to just be the sequins. And then I'm going to use these gorgeous silver, these are also iron on. So I'm going to use these and cut them to create the wing shapes, because I think they'll work perfectly. Look at that. That's pretty much spot on for how I want the wing to be. Ooh, that looks good, doesn't it? Let's cut that one up and see what happens. Oh yeah, that's going to be super cool. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm going to iron all of this into place now, making sure it's nice and symmetrical, and then I can start beading on top of it. So this is how it looks all ironed on. I'm really glad these were ironed on, it made things a lot quicker. So now I've got my base together, I can start adding my beads. I don't think I'm going to use this lace. I was thinking I was going to add some beaded lace to it, but I'm not going to use that. Okay, so today I went to work, and then after work I had loads of errands to run. I had to go to the post office, sort my car rego out, which I couldn't do online. I had to go and talk to someone, so that took ages, and I had to go to the shops and get a few things. So it's 8 o'clock and I'm just starting sewing now, which is a bit frustrating, but never mind. Life stuff has to be done sometimes. So last night I got pretty much all the way around the first row of the bugle beads on the heart. So now I'm just starting this second row, and I'm going to alternate them just coming out, just so it looks like there's a bit of a sort of explosion going on, almost inspired by those sort of religion iconography pictures. So I think the Met Gala was such a big influence for me this year that it's still in the back of my mind, even though this isn't a dress that's about religion at all. So I think I'm going to do this row around the edge with them coming off, and then I think I'm going to do the same on the inside coming in, and then I'm going to do some sort of spreading out from the middle as well. So I think it's going to have more bugle beads on than I thought it would, but I'm going to see how far I get tonight, and then I will be back in the morning. I'm not working tomorrow, I'm just here, so I can get on with everything. I've got all day tomorrow. So the beading on the heart is done now, and that took longer than I expected, but I love how it looks. It looks really cool from a distance. I was going to use the chain on this part, but it's just not sitting right, so I'm decided I'm just going to use some flatback Swarovski crystals on there just for that added sparkle. I don't know if you can sort of tell how sparkly it is if I do that. Super keen to just get on with this right now, but I've actually got to go and get changed and get ready because I'm off to CIT to see the fashion students put on a fashion show.